Golden Tricorn offers up to a 50% weapon damage buff in both PvE and PvP. It has an incredible uptime of 10 seconds that can be refreshed in multiple ways, and it stacks on top of empowering buffs, font of might, and enemy debuffs for insane amounts of damage. It is the strongest perk in Destiny 2. By the end of this guide, I guarantee you're going to hesitate anytime you think about dismantling a role with it. Using it to stack 162% damage buff in PvE, fusion rifle bolts hitting for 100 damage in PvP. I believe the only reason we don't see Golden Tricorn appear in more god roll wishlists is because of how complicated the perk looks to activate, but when you break it down, it's incredibly easy to use. I'm going to start with simplifying that massive perk description, but I'm also going to showcase which weapons Golden Tricorn works best on and end with what perk combinations synergize to bring it all together. You can find it on primaries, special weapons, and even a rocket launcher. I've included timestamps for all of it so you can bookmark and come back to reference this video whenever you're unsure of a drop you got with Golden Tricorn. But first, let's start with how the perk works. Golden Tricorn can be separated into two parts. In-game, this is displayed as Golden Tricorn ×1 or ×2, and I want to really emphasize how it's helpful to think of Golden Tricorn ×1 and ×2 almost as different perks altogether, because they do such different things and are refreshed in different ways. Golden Tricorn ×1, it's just Rampage perfected. I say this because it operates just like Rampage. You get a kill, you get a damage buff, and you can refresh that buff timer by getting another kill. But instead of Rampage's measly 10% damage buff for 3.5 seconds, Golden Tricorn gives you a 15% damage boost that lasts for 7 seconds. So more damage with twice the amount of time to use it. Now Rampage can add a Rampage spec to get it to last 4.5 seconds, but that's a weapon mod slot that could be used for a boss spec mod in PvE or something useful in PvP like a counterbalance mod. Golden Tricorn leaves the mod slot open to be used how you'd like. You don't need to waste it like you do on Rampage. Not only that, but Golden Tricorn can be crafted as an enhanced version on some weapons. The enhanced version actually just applies to the first level of the perk, and it extends the time from the original 7 seconds up to 8 seconds. So a 15% damage buff for 8 seconds, and it's refreshed every time you get another kill. To keep things simple, I'm going to refer to the perk as if we're not using the enhanced version and just say 7 seconds, which is still a very, very long time. Let's sit on that for a second. Golden Tricorn offers so much before we even get to the next level of the perk. I think a lot of people skip right up to the second part of the perk and think to themselves, I won't ever be doing all these steps, so it's not worth it for me. And they completely bypass just how good the first level of the perk is all by itself. Let me give 2 quick examples of Golden Tricorn ×1 before we get to level 2. An example for PvE and one for PvP. For PvE, I picked up this Jurassic Green that rolled Subsistence and Golden Tricorn. I can just lean into Golden Tricorn ×1 all day with this thing, never reload thanks to Subsistence, and always have that 15% weapon damage buff procced. The 7-second duration gives me plenty of time to move between enemies, and the damage stacks with any other buffs I have going. If I take too long to find my next target, it only takes 1 kill to start the loop all over again. So it's a nice and easy weapon buff all on its own before we even get to the insanity of Golden Tricorn ×2. For PvP, the 15% damage boost and long 7-second timer are even more valuable. That kind of damage for that amount of time will help pretty much any weapon's time to kill value. For special weapons, it puts rapid fire fusion rifles back to their pre-nerf state, only requiring 7 bolts to kill against any resilience level. So you could run a rapid fire fusion with Gerfalcons to get a 15% damage buff on your first kill, and then have Golden Tricorn's 15% damage buff for any other kills after that before you go invis for Gerfalcons again. A pretty nasty loop. Now let's get wild and enter Golden Tricorn ×2. This is where the perk goes from, I see how that's helpful on some weapons, to, I need this on everything. The second level of Golden Tricorn gives you a 15% damage buff that lasts for 10 seconds. 50%! You activate it by getting an ability kill that matches the element of the weapon you're using with Golden Tricorn, and you have to get that ability kill during the 7-second window from Golden Tricorn ×1. This can sound like a lot, but the ability kill to get to Golden Tricorn ×2 can be anything, and the 7-second window is pretty generous amount of time to get that ability kill in. Plus, once the 10 seconds of Golden Tricorn ×2 is active, you can refresh the buff timer back to 10 seconds at any time through another elemental ability kill. If the 10-second timer runs out before you get another ability kill, you have to start back at the beginning and get a weapon kill to start at the first step of the perk all over again. Now this is crazy strong, but let's walk through a few things to keep in mind for proccing Golden Tricorn ×2. You have to have the first part of the perk active to proc ×2, which means you have to have the weapon out when you get your ability kill. You can't stow the weapon during any of your progress on the perk because it will get rid of Golden Tricorn ×1, and you need that to get to ×2. Lastly, you have to remember that the ability has to match the element of the weapon with Golden Tricorn, so you can't switch subclasses mid-match or mid-strike. You have to plan to run this weapon. Let's take the Inquisitor Slug shotgun with Golden Tricorn as an example. You have to run an arc subclass to take advantage of the second level of the perk because the Inquisitor is an arc shotgun. You can use the first level of Golden Tricorn no matter what subclass you run because all it requires is a weapon kill. But to get to the 50% damage buff of the second level, you need to run the same subclass as your weapon. Okay. Let's play that all the way out so you can see the full loop. You're on an Arc Titan using the Inquisitor. You get a kill, and now you've got Golden Tricorn ×1 active for 7 seconds. You take a second to get your bearings, and then you head for the next enemy with your shoulder charge. As soon as you get that shoulder charge kill, you've got Golden Tricorn ×2 active with a full 10 seconds of a 50% weapon buff on your Precision Slug shotgun. That's amazing. If you keep playing it out for PvE, on the Titan, you've got the knockout aspect. So every melee you do, whether your melee ability is up or not, will be a powered arc melee. So you can refresh that 10-second buff timer anytime you just punch an enemy, keeping your 50% damage buff up all the time. If you run a melee Wellmaker and Font of Might on your armor pieces, you've also got a 25% damage buff stacked on top of everything. So now you've got a total 87.5% damage buff all the time once you add in Font of Might. Both of these things can be stacked further through empowering buffs like Warlock Wells and High Energy Fire, but I just wanted to show you the basic combo of Font of Might and Golden Tricorn ×2 forming that 87.5% buff that you can do on any subclass and have it up pretty much all the time. Now take that same weapon into PvP, Inquisitor Slug shotgun, and you get a kill and then an ability kill in those 7 seconds. You've got a one-shot body shot slug shotgun hitting for 225 damage a body shot. Pretty straightforward, it rocks. Golden Tricorn is so ridiculous in PvP because if you get it rolling, it just absolutely breaks pretty much every gun, no matter what you have it rolled on. So now that we know how both levels of Golden Tricorn work, let's get into which weapons can roll it and see which ones are worth your time. Golden Tricorn can roll on a lot now. You can find it on SMGs, autos, pulses, shotguns, sniper rifles, fusion rifles, trace rifles, Waveframe grenade launchers, and even a rocket launcher. But let's start with the primaries, since even the first level of the perk will benefit any of these weapons. I'm going to list the weapons that can roll Golden Tricorn and their energy types since you have to match your abilities if you want to get Golden Tricorn ×2 going. The primaries that have it are the Stasis Lunulata lightweight bow, the Arc Come to Pass high impact auto rifle, the Solar Summoner adaptive auto rifle, the Solar Jurassic Green rapid fire pulse, the Void Yesteryear adaptive pulse, the Arc Out of Bounds lightweight SMG, the Void Soraya's Wrath precision SMG, and the Void Unforgiven aggressive SMG. If you like any of these weapons, you've got to check your vault to see if you have one with Golden Tricorn, or see if it's a weapon you can still acquire and grab one. In PvE specifically, it's easy to take it up a notch with Golden Tricorn ×2 and get that 50% buff going, because tons of PvE builds thrive on ability kills and having those abilities up constantly. Now, on the flip side of that, if my abilities are my ad clearing method, why would I waste Golden Tricorn ×2 on a primary that is also used for ad clear? This is where I land a lot of the times with Golden Tricorn in PvE. If I'm going to be ad clearing with my abilities, I want something to deal insane amount of damage for yellow bars and bosses, and so a special weapon would be a better fit. However, there are exceptions. Primaries that have longer ranges that my abilities can't reach are what I gravitate towards on this list. The Summoner and Jurassic Green were two of my favorites to run on Caliban's Hand Hunter or Path of Burning Steps Titan. You could use Lunulata, Come to Pass, and Yesteryear in the same way to target enemies further away and just use your abilities to clear ads up close and keep Golden Tricorn ×2 active. The SMGs on the list I feel live in that space your abilities do, so it's hard for me personally to justify them in PvE when you've got all your abilities going crazy at that distance. But take those SMGs into the Crucible and you're ready to rock and roll. No matter which one you prefer, just the first level of Golden Tricorn will give you a faster time to kill with less headshots required. Then if you get an ability kill to activate Golden Tricorn ×2, any of the SMGs will kill in less than half a second. Incredibly deadly. Jurassic Green, the rapid fire pulse can 2-burst in PvP with Golden Tricorn ×2 active. Plus, it's a solar weapon, which means you probably got Radiant getting your solar ability kill, which then means that only 4 bullets out of your 2 bursts need to actually be headshots. Yesteryear can do the same thing for Void, the 2 burst, but it's just slower at a 0.53 second time to kill due to the rate of fire. If you like adaptive pulses, it might be worth checking out though. Sticking with the long range, Lunulata, the stasis lightweight bow, can one-shot any resilience level for 10 seconds if you get Golden Tricorn ×2 rolling. It basically turns into a sniper rifle for 10 whole seconds. This might be the craziest thing on the entire list because this is a lightweight bow, the fastest in the game, and you can one-shot with it for a very long time. Now, is it practical? Only because it is stasis, I would say no. It would be a lot easier to recommend Lunulata if stasis freeze kills counted as stasis ability kills. But you have to get the kill with a shatter elimination, which only Hunter or a Titan can really do. This makes it pretty easy to do in PvE, but really difficult in PvP. That said, Shatter Dive will work, so have fun bringing back some nightmares if you decide to try it out. The other downside to this Golden Tricorn bow is that there are just better alternatives for the bow one-shots. Swashbuckler Biting Winds can give a one-shot for 4.5 seconds and will refresh on a kill, or Kill Clip Whistler's Whim with Radiant will one-shot for 5 seconds. I don't want it to sound like Lunulata is all bad though, as it offers 10 seconds for the buff. It's just really hard to get it going in PvP specifically. Lastly, I thought I'd dig the auto rifles since it ups your time to kill no matter what, but I didn't love Golden Tricorn on the Summoner. I don't know, it just might not be my thing. I didn't feel as competitive as I did with the other options. I am curious about Come to Pass with its 4 bullet kill while Golden Tricorn ×2 is active, but it was so easy for me to get flinched off my shot with the Summoner that I knew my experience would probably be about the same with Come to Pass. Despite still leveling up my Come to Pass and not really digging the Summoner, I wanted to still touch on them because if you love auto rifles and want to up your game, Golden Tricorn will still help your time to kill. Finishing up the primaries, I want to acknowledge that getting to the second level of the buff in PvP can be a big ask. Getting an ability kill after you get an elimination with a weapon is no joke. For some people, that's just too many hoops to jump through. No matter which camp you fall into, if you get Golden Tricorn ×2 going, you want to have your mind blown for all the work you put in to get there. Primaries, for the most part, don't do that, but special weapons do. This is where Golden Tricorn comes alive for me. The primaries are fun, but the special weapons feel broken when you activate Golden Tricorn ×2. This is also where Golden Tricorn can start to lose its appeal on some weapons, so let's dive into which ones work. They are the Stasis Riptide Rapid Fire Fusion Rifle, the Void Likely Suspect Rapid Fire Fusion Rifle, the Arc Midas Reckoning High Impact Fusion Rifle, the Solar Explosive Personality Waveframe Grenade Launcher, the Arc Forbearance Waveframe Grenade Launcher, the Solar Compass Rose Precision Frame Pellet Shotgun, the Arc Deadweight Rapid Fire Shotgun, the Void Matador 64 Precision Frame Pellet Shotgun, the Arc Inquisitor Slug Shotgun, the Void 1000 Yard Stare Adaptive Sniper Rifle, the Arc Galu RR3 Adaptive Sniper Rifle, and the Solar Retrace Path Trace Rifle from Dares of Eternity. Lots of options with a few really amazing standouts. The Rapid Fire Fusion Rifles, Riptide, and Likely Suspect are some of the weapons that most easily benefit from Golden Tricorn since they are really enhanced with even just the 15% damage buff from the first level of the perk. As I mentioned earlier, in PvP it basically makes them a pre-nerf rapid fire fusion rifle, only taking 7 bolts to kill at any resilience level. I can't emphasize enough how much that changes how effective rapid fire fusion rifles feel. On top of that, those fusion rifles have high ammo capacity for running Golden Tricorn in PvE and getting the most out of either level 1 or 2 of the perk. You can see why I'd want all that ammo when I get to the other end of the magazine spectrum with Waveframe grenade launchers, but for now let's just say that it's great having all this ammo to work with Golden Tricorn ×1 or ×2. Mida's Reckoning, a high-impact arc fusion rifle, is so fascinating with Golden Tricorn in both PvE and PvP. In PvP, if you get Golden Tricorn ×2 rolling on Mida's Reckoning, it becomes a 2-bolt kill at 100 damage a bolt. That means that as long as you land at least 4 bolts on a target, you could 1-burst kill at any range. Even at full damage drop-off, you could still 1-burst kill with that rolling. Outside of that, just getting the 2-bolt kill while in range is pretty hilarious, 100 damage a bolt. Then, translate that damage to PvE with regenerating arc abilities that could keep Golden Tricorn ×2 up pretty much all the time, and you are in for a good time. I really like my Mida's Reckoning with Backup Plan and Successful Warm-Up combo, but I had a roll with Backup Plan and Golden Tricorn too, and let's just say I won't be deleting it anytime soon. I even liked it over my Reservoir Burst rolls in PvE. Explosive Personality and Forbearance. Waveframe grenade launchers with Golden Tricorn ×2 has to be one of the most insane perk combos I've ever seen in Destiny. In PvP, they can one-shot, and that is just a hilarious thing to get rolling. I was really hoping to land a shot of a bunch of Guardians in a row. I didn't get that clip, but I did land a few streaks that felt pretty awesome. In PvE, they are a really effective damage tool against yellow bars while also clearing a room alongside your abilities. Explosive Personality is great for solar builds and has field prep for larger reserves, while Forbearance has Ambitious Assassin to allow for more shots in the mag. I thought Waveframes were going to be my favorite Golden Tricorn weapons in PvE because it's just so much damage, but I've come to realize magazine size and how frequent you have to reload is a big part of what makes the perk feel good on a weapon or not. You want to use the time you have with the perk active actually doing damage, not reloading. And things like autoloading holster don't help because you need to have the weapon up to activate and keep Golden Tricorn ×2. Shotguns with Golden Tricorn are interesting. On one hand, you've got our first Slug shotgun, the Inquisitor, that can roll Golden Tricorn and output massive amounts of damage, and on the other hand, you've got some pellet shotguns that are a little unreliable. To be fair though, I haven't been able to test a lot of the pellet shotguns with it because they either aren't currently available or they just require a great amount of RNG. Compass Rose is a precision pellet frame shotgun that can be acquired during the Solstice event, and the Matador 64 is a void precision frame shotgun that must be acquired from the Grasp of Avarice dungeon. I do have a deadweight rapid fire shotgun with Golden Tricorn, but man, rapid fire shotguns just feel so bad right now. I tried to make it work, but it was just awful. If you have a Matador 64 or Compass Rose, I'm really interested in how that could perform for you. What I do know though is that the Inquisitor is extremely good. In PvE, as I've mentioned several times, it's not hard to keep those arc abilities rolling. And the Inquisitor with 50% extra damage from Golden Tricorn ×2 is no joke. It feels really powerful. In PvP, you can see that power with a 225 damage one-shot body shot kill. Now, I don't recommend this as much for PvP because you'll get much more bang for your buck with Enhanced Swashbuckler from the No Reprieve Seasonal Slug Shotgun. That gives you 6.5 seconds of a one-shot on almost anything that is refreshed on a kill, and you can run it with a Solar class to get Radiant and extend your range. So there really is no competition there in my opinion, but for PvE, the Inquisitor puts out the damage. So be sure to try one out if you get a Golden Tricorn roll. I had high hopes for the snipers with Golden Tricorn, but I ran into an ammo problem with them similar to what I was talking about with the Waveframe grenade launchers. I have both a 1000 yard stare and Galu with Golden Tricorn, and I didn't care for either of them in PvE or PvP. I thought they would be great boss damage weapons between the 50% from Golden Tricorn ×2 stack with Fauna Might's 25% buff, but I found myself reloading more than firing the weapon. Maybe if you get lucky with an overflow Golden Tricorn Galu roll, you could have something interesting, and it's certainly possible with how you can target Omelon weapons in the helm with Umbral Engrams. But I just felt like the damage output wasn't worth the cost of all the hoops to jump through with such limited ammo. In PvP, these snipers could one-shot body shot kill at lower resiliences, but I frequently ran into the resilience check, And the ammo problem was exaggerated even further than it is in PvE. Nearly all the special weapons struggle with Golden Tricorn in PvP due to your ammo limitations. Golden Tricorn requires a weapon kill first before you go after your ability kill for the second phase of the perk. After doing all this to get it rolling, I would frequently not find any ammo on my way to getting Golden Tricorn ×2 procced. So when I finally had the long 10 seconds of 50% damage up, I only had one single shot to use with it. That feels pretty unrewarding. I will say this is more of a problem for the sniper rifles because in general they took longer to reload and I was far away from my first kill, so I didn't pick up any ammo afterwards. The shotguns and fusion rifles felt a little better. Now there is one exception to this ammo problem on special weapons, and that's trace rifles. Retrace path with Golden Tricorn is incredible. It is the standout here. You've probably seen videos covering it occasionally, and there's a reason for that. It has plenty of ammo to grab either the 15% damage from Golden Tricorn ×1 or the 50% buff if you get Golden Tricorn ×2 running. Plus, you can now craft it with some great first column perk options. I got lucky with a subsistence Golden Tricorn roll that I really like in PvE. You can just plow through enemies with that 50% extra damage and you can just keep it going without ever reloading. It's very fun. In PvP, it wasn't bad either. Personally, I don't love trace rifles in PvP, but when I got Golden Tricorn ×2 rolling, it felt like I could really slay out. The only downside was that it was hard to hit targets at range, but that's more of a trace rifle thing than a Golden Tricorn thing. That said, being a weapon that has damage continually rolling out like an auto rifle or SMG meant that just having the first level of Golden Tricorn helps the weapon's time to kill without even getting to the second level of the perk. Finally, we have a heavy ammo weapon. The Void Red Herring Rocket Launcher. Man, how I want this thing to work. And it's not bad. You can get Ambitious Assassin with it, and with 2 in the mag, 50% damage buff for 10 seconds, that's not bad. Plus you're running Void, which includes a debuff with your grenade, and can include an empowering buff with Weapons of Light if you're on a Titan. Even if you're not on a Titan, you can use the Argent Ordnance Charge with Light mod to get up to a 35% empowering buff. Golden Tricorn on a rocket launcher ultimately comes down to if you like using rocket launchers. And are you okay with wasting a shot on ads to get the perk rolling? It feels clunky, but it's a lot of damage. I don't know if I'll main this, but I'm gonna keep it around and I'm definitely going to look out for this perk rolling on other heavy weapons in the future. I could see it becoming available on a machine gun or a linear fusion rifle, so be on the lookout in future seasons. Lastly, I wanted to give some perk combinations to look out for on Golden Tricorn weapons and an example of how to do some extreme damage stacking with the perk. In both PvE and PvP, any perk that reloads your ammo for you is going to make for a great pairing with Golden Tricorn. Subsistence, which reloads a portion of your magazine on kills, is a great one. It significantly improved my enjoyment of using Golden Tricorn on Jurassic Green, Retrace Path, and the Inquisitor, and it's particularly good at utilizing the first level of Golden Tricorn to keep that 15% damage buff up without stopping. That said, perks that automatically reload your weapon with an ability are even better. Both Demolitionist and Grave Robber allow you to keep Golden Tricorn ×2 active with your ability kill and automatically reload your weapon at the same time. It's the perfect combo. Demolitionist has the additional ability of giving you 10 to 20% of your grenade energy back on a kill as well. Overflow will double your mag size when picking up special or power ammo. I think that's a great one to look out for on Summoner or the Galoo Sniper Rifle. Ambitious Assassin will also double the magazine on the Red Herring Rocket Launcher and Forbearance Waveframe Grenade Launcher. A must-have combo in my opinion. Finally, perks that give you your ability energy back and keep Golden Tricorn ×2 up as much as possible are great pairings. We already talked about Demolitionist doing this, but look out for Pugilist and Wellspring too. Even though they don't auto-reload your weapon like Demolitionists, it's still great to have your abilities back faster. I mentioned before that Golden Tricorn is a weapon buff, and it stacks with empowering buffs and Font of Might buffs. Any class could run high energy fire for that 15% empowering buff on top of everything, but I love running my Solar Titan to stack the Firewalker buff from the Path of Burning Steps exotic. It's the perfect exotic pairing with Golden Tricorn because it can activate on a solar ability kill just like Golden Tricorn times 2, and it also lasts for 10 seconds just like Golden Tricorn times 2. This means that you could have a 50% buff from Golden Tricorn stacked with a 40% buff from Path of Burning Steps Firewalker buff, stacked with a 25% buff from Font of Might for a total of 162.5% buff. I haven't even added in anyone from your team applying a debuff. If you've got someone running Weaken or Tractor Cannon or Tether, you significantly increase your damage even further. But just sticking with that 162.5% buff, you're doing crazy amounts of damage and you're taking it into solo content with you. So that Retrace Path Solar Trace Rifle I was talking about earlier, yeah, it slays in PvE with this setup. The Solar Waveframe Grenade Launcher, Explosive Personality, is another one that just goes off with this. Even primaries like Jurassic Green felt really good. And this is just one example. You can take your favorite empowering buff, whether it's Warlock Well or a build with high energy fire, and add it to any Golden Tricorn weapon and you're in for a treat. It's the most powerful perk in Destiny 2. This has been Legole Flash. Feel free to catch me in the comments section or at Lego LE Flash on Twitter, TikTok, and even Hive now, just in case. And join me here every week for cinematic Destiny 2 guides and reviews. Until next time, GG.